You know that feeling when you take a sharp corner in your car and it just flows? There's no skipping, no jerking your wheel, it's just smooth. Well, you've got a seriously clever piece of engineering to thank for that, and it's called the differential. So, how does a car manage to turn a corner without the wheels basically going to war with each other? I mean, think about it. They need to spin at different speeds. Well, that little puzzle is exactly what we're going to unravel right now. See, before we can even talk about the solution, we've got to wrap our heads around the problem. And it's not some kind of mechanical flaw, it's a straight up geometry puzzle that every single car has to solve. Just picture it in your head. When you make a turn, the outside wheel has to travel way further than the inside wheel. It's tracing a much bigger circle, right? But it has to do it in the exact same amount of time. The only way that's mathematically possible is if the outside wheel spins faster. Period. So what happens if you just don't solve this? What if you lock both wheels onto one solid axle and force them to spin at the same speed? Well, you get chaos. The wheels fight each other. One of them has to skip and drag across the pavement. It's just awful for handling, puts a ton of stress on your car, and you'll be buying new tires constantly. And that is where the hero of our story comes in, the differential. It's this beautiful device made for one main job, letting two wheels on the same axle spin at different speeds, all while still getting power. It is a masterpiece of mechanical engineering. So where does this thing live? Okay, let's trace the power. It starts at the engine, goes through your transmission, flies down the drive shaft, and slams right into the differential. That's the junction box. That's where the power gets split and sent out to the wheels. It's the last and maybe most important link in the chain. All right, so if we could just crack this thing open, what's inside? It's all about gears. You've got a big ring gear that catches the power. That's mounted to a carrier housing. And inside that little cage, you'll find the real magic makers, the spider gears and the side gears. Burn those names into your brain. Okay, this is where it gets really, really cool. To actually see the genius in this thing, we're going to walk through 3 situations. Driving in a straight line, making a turn, and what happens when you hit a patch of ice. So, scenario 1, the easy one. You're driving straight down the road. Both wheels are going the exact same distance at the exact same speed. In this case, those spider gears inside, they aren't actually spinning on their own axes. They're basically just locked in place, going along for the ride, and making sure both wheels get the exact same rotation. Simple. But now, you turn the steering wheel. This is the moment the differential was born for. Suddenly, the outside wheel needs to speed up and the inside wheel needs to slow down. So how on earth does a bunch of gears make that happen? To get this, you need to understand one crucial idea: carrier speed. That housing that holds the spider gears, the carrier, is spinning at a speed that is always the perfect average of your 2 wheels. That's the golden rule. It never changes. So let's just use a number to make it super clear. Let's say you're in a turn, and that carrier is spinning at 100 RPM. That's our average speed, our baseline. And here comes the magic. As your inside wheel slows down for the turn, let's say it drops to 80 RPM. That's 20 RPM less than the carrier. Well, those spider gears feel that difference, and they start to spin. And as they spin, they force the outside wheel to speed up by the exact same amount. So it goes up to 120 RPM. One side is down 20, the other is up 20. And what's the average of 80 and 120? It's still 100. It's a perfect, self-correcting mechanical balance. Now hold on, because we have to bust a huge myth right here. A lot of people think the differential sends more power to the faster wheel. Nope, that's not right. The single most important thing to remember is this: a standard open differential always delivers equal torque, that's the twisting force, to both wheels. The speeds can change, but the torque is locked at 50-50. It's a law of physics for this device. And that brings us to the differential's one major weakness. Because it always sends equal torque, the total amount of torque it can put out is limited by the wheel with the least amount of grip. So if one wheel's on ice, it takes basically 0 torque to spin it. And since the torque has to be equal, that means the wheel on the nice dry pavement also gets 0 torque. And that's why you get stuck with one wheel just spinning uselessly. Now, of course, engineers have known about this problem forever. And that's why they came up with some seriously cool upgrades to solve this traction issue, especially for sports cars and off-road trucks. This is where you hear about things like a limited slip differential, or an LSD. It uses things like clutch packs to do what an open diff can't.
When it feels one wheel start to slip, it's smart enough to start sending more of that precious torque over to the wheel that actually has grip. It's a more complex, but much more capable system. And it doesn't even stop there. You've got torsion differentials that can sense torque, viscous couplings that use special fluids, and for the really hardcore off-roaders, locking differentials that can literally force both wheels to spin at the exact same speed to get you out of a tough spot.
But even with all of these high-tech solutions, it's worth just taking a second to go back and appreciate the simple, profound genius of that original, purely mechanical design.
And this idea has been on a long journey. I mean, the basic concept is actually ancient, but the version we know and love became standard in cars back in the early 1900s. And today we're enhancing that same core idea with electronics to do incredible things like torque vectoring. But the mechanical heart is still there. So let's just recap what makes it so brilliant. It solves a complex geometry problem. It lets the wheels change speed on the fly. It distributes torque perfectly evenly. And the classic version does all of this with no computers, no sensors, just the beautiful, predictable physics of gears meshing together. It's incredible. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. In a world that's getting more and more complicated, filled with software and code, there is something amazing about a purely mechanical solution that has just plain worked for over 100 years. It really makes you wonder, what if that kind of simple, robust elegance is something we should be looking for in our future and not just something we admire from our past?